Okay, here we are. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Training Talk here on Personal Defense Network. I'm Grant Cunningham, and in the next hour, we're going to look at how you can prepare and equip yourself to handle that worst case scenario. This is the show where we talk about you, about your life, and how to protect it. And, it's a crazy election season. I think everybody probably knows that. And so you'll probably be happy to know that we do not do politics or religion on the show. And you're not going to hear crazy or conspiracy theories, none of that stuff. Just reliable information that you can put to use right away. It's the responsible and reasonable approach to self-defense and personal safety, and I hope that you enjoy it. And hey, if you do enjoy the show, would you do me a favor and share it with your friends and family and coworkers and all your social media contacts? I'd appreciate it. And you know something? I think they will too. I think they'll appreciate that you thought enough of them to share this great, important information with them. So if you would share, I would very much appreciate it. So, welcome to everybody. Welcome those people who are coming back. For those new viewers, welcome to you as well. For those people that are coming back, you probably notice things have changed around here just a little bit. You're seeing a slightly different view of my office. New microphone here. We I noticed that the sound on our videos was a little bit. We had a lot of echo because my office here, it does not have carpet. It's got cork floors. And so the room has a lot of echo to it. And so I decided to go to a new mic, a slightly different mic, instead of the lapel mic that I've been wearing all this time. So hopefully you'll hear better sound out of this and without all the echo that was happening. So lots of changes around here, and I hope that you like them. Anyway, we've got a great guest tonight, and I've been really waiting to get him on tonight. Caleb Causey from Lone Star Medics is going to be on in just a few minutes, but I've got a couple of things I want to cover first. And the first thing that I want to talk about is our executive director, Rob Pincus, had an interesting occurrence yesterday. And now Rob and his wife, guys, I guess it's been over a year ago now, built a new house and moved into it, and they've been living there and renting out her old house. And it's vacant now. And they were heading over to the old house yesterday to do some stuff there. And as they drove down the street, Rob noticed that there were some rather seedy looking characters sitting on the porch of the house, I'm smoking or whatever they were doing, and they weren't supposed to be there. And now it's interesting that most people that were faced with this circumstance would probably stop and get out of their car indignant and try to shoo these people away. Rob knew better. And instead of even stopping, he just drove on past, drove to the end of the block, turned around, parked, and called the police. And the police showed up. 5 police officers showed up, and there were apparently more than just these 2 people in the house. There were drugs, there were weapons in the house, and should it shock anybody to find out that they had warrants out for their arrest? Yeah, it really shouldn't shock anybody. And so they took him into custody. Now, this is a situation where some of us may find ourselves occasionally. Things like this happen. And like I said, for a lot of people, and if you're on any of the gun forums or anything, even on Facebook, social media, you probably run into people who say, well, by golly, I'm going to go up and protect my property. And I'm not going to let them disrespect me or my property or any of this kind of thing. And we hear that kind of thing quite often. And very often it comes to what Claude Warner calls a negative outcome. In this particular case, there were multiple people there, multiple people that Rob didn't see, weapons that he did not see. And one man against, I think there were a total of 5 people. That's not really good odds. He did the right thing. He used his head. He didn't need to go in there. There's nothing in the house. It's empty. There's nothing there that needs to be protected. There's nobody living there. Paint, wallpaper, draperies, carpet can all be replaced. his life couldn't. And he was with his wife and his young daughter at the time. So that makes it, of course, even more important to stay out of trouble. So that's what he did. So that's the way it should be handled. Don't let yourself get kind of sucked into the whole macho thing that I'm going to protect my property, or I'm going to, I'm going to protect the neighborhood. Every once in a while I hear or I see people on the net talk about how if we let these people go, they'll just go do it someplace else. We need to be the first line in the defense against crime. Well, the first line in the defense against crime is to stop and call the police and let them handle it. They're good at it. They like to do that. That's what they enjoy doing. Let them do their job. Don't do their job. Stay safe. Think before you act. Now, Rob has told me that he's going to write an article for Personal Defense Network right here about the incident. So look for that in the next show. And I'm sure he'll have some great insights about what he was thinking and what he decided to do, and more importantly, why he decided to do it. So look for that hopefully here in the next week or so. I am looking forward to it. So before we get started with Caleb, I want to remind you about the Personal Defense Network newsletter, the free newsletter. And you're probably watching the show on the Personal Defense Network site. There's a link below the video for you to sign up for the newsletter. Don't do it now. Wait until the show's over. We'll finish watching the show because trust me, there's some cool stuff coming up. But sign up for the newsletter. Now, you'll be joining literally hundreds of thousands of other people who get the newsletter every week. And it's got a lot of great information. It gives you updates when the show's on. It'll tell you when Training Talk is coming on. It'll tell you when the live events that Rob Pincus does are coming on. It'll tell you about new videos and new articles that are up on the site. Speaking of videos, I found out this week that we have 551 videos. Those are just on our public site, the YouTube videos that we've got, 551 of them. Wow. I don't know how many minutes that is, but that's a lot of viewing. And that's just on the public site of Personal Defense Network. That's all free for you to view. And sign up for the newsletter, and that'll let you know every week new videos that are coming out, sometimes recapping old videos so you can keep track of some of the stuff you might have missed, as well as learning about this show and when it's on. It's a great resource. Like I said, hundreds of thousands of other people are signed up. So just click on the link, or anywhere on the Personal Defense Network site. There are lots of places to sign up. Just sign up, get the email in your email box every week, and keep track of what's going on here at Personal Defense Network, because there's a lot going on. So it's, as I said, I've got a great guest tonight, and this is someone that I've wanted on now for a long time. I'm going to see if I can unmute him here, because I'm not sure. Oh boy, I'm not sure how to do this now. Hang on. Yeah, great. Thank you, Google, for yeah. Okay. I'm working on it here, Caleb, because it's not accepting my unmute command. Okay. All right. Caleb, you can hear me, can't you? Yeah, you can hear me. I can't hear you. Do me a favor, log out and log back in, if you can do that.
Oh, how about now?
There we go.
You got me now?
Yes, I've got you now.
Okay.
Okay, folks, this is what happens when you do a show live. All right. You can tell that this is not taped, because now I'm embarrassed. And this happens every time I use the Google mute thing that they have here, and it happens every time. Anyway, hey, welcome, Caleb. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Hey, man, it's good to be here.
So I've wanted to have you on for the longest time, because there's a lot of great information that you put out, and you're kind of my go-to guy when it comes to medical stuff. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But before we do that, why don't you give us an idea of who you are and what you do and your background and all that kind of thing?
Sure. Again, thanks for having me on. It's humbling to be here amongst the other contributors of PDN. And I'm not just saying that to be saying it. It's I'm very much a student of everybody here that contributes to it. So I was humbled when PDN and Rob came to me and approached me about it. So thank you all very, very much. My background, in a nutshell, I've spent the past 15, now a little bit more than 15 years being a medic in either a field or tactical medical type of setting or job, if you will. I started off back in high school, actually, with the Boy Scouts of America riding out the Explorer program. And it was a really cool program because for that Explorer post, we actually, from the ambulance company, we got to ride out with all the paramedics and EMTs on the trucks and go to every call. We go to people's homes and car wrecks and apartments and wherever we went. Went to the Army, did 4 years of active duty as a combat medic, and stationed in Europe for a couple of years, deployed twice to the Balkans. Units I've worked with were the 212th MASH, proud to say, the last MASH in the Army. And the 82nd, I got attached to them for our first deployment to the Balkans. And then Fort Polk, Louisiana, I was with the opposing forces unit. And once I got out, I was really looking for that camaraderie I had in that in the military, and I found it at a firehouse, actually. A friend of the family invited me out, and I spent 6 years as a volunteer firefighter EMT. And during those 6 years, I worked with the SWAT team. They invited me out one day for training myself and about 5 or 6 other medics. And at noon, they said, "Thank you all very much. We appreciate it, but we want that big guy to come back." And so it was kind of interesting. And they said, "Yeah, I want to see what else you got." So through a long day it was. But spent 6 years doing that. And then about coming up almost on about 7 years ago, went down to paramedic school in College Station, Texas, and I made it through the paramedic program by the skin of my teeth. So much so that they said, "Hey, well, you need to hurry up and take this final exam." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And they said, "Well, no, you need seriously hurry because we're doing job interviews next door, and they're waiting on you." And I was like, I don't know this material now. Trust me, you're gonna wait till you get this grade. Okay, this test result. I don't know this material. And they ended up going through about 2 weeks worth of adult learning styles and train the trainer and how to teach, which was funny. That's the advanced class, they called it. They had it backwards. That was that, you learn how to learn. I could have used that information at the beginning of class. But came home, some buddies at the shooting range out at TAC Pro Shooting Center said, "Well, now that you're a big shot instructor, teach us teach the RSOs a class." And I pulled an 8-hour class out of my hat, and here we are 7 years later. And so it's been a whirlwind. It really has.
So here 7 years later, you've got a thriving business teaching, and quite frankly, you're in demand for information all over the place. I want to do one thing before we actually get started, because now Caleb is known for one thing in particular. He's known for urging everybody to stay hydrated. So I'm staying hydrated now. The returning viewers already know about this, but the new people, and Caleb sure doesn't. This is my tactical hippie water bottle. Yeah, so I'm staying hydrated with my tactical hippie water bottle tonight. There we go. In your honor.
And we're not going to ask each other what's in each other's canteens or water bottles or glasses made out of skulls. We're not going to ask that question. Okay. But we are consuming liquids. That's important.
Yeah. Well, mine is water. So, okay. So the reason I wanted to have you on, for starters, was because of this interesting article that you wrote here for Personal Defense Network here not too long ago on training tourniquets, which was a sort of I've taken a trauma care class, right? I've learned how to use tourniquets and hemostatic agents and all that sort of stuff. But the idea of a training tourniquet is kind of new to me. So if you would please talk to us about what a training tourniquet is, and why you think they're important to have. Because like I said, I'm looking at the article here, and like I said, this is a new concept to me, and I think it may be for a lot of people.
Yeah, if we look at the tourniquets, and I was, tourniquets are designed, and when I say tourniquets, there's several out there in the market. I'm really more focused on the ones that actually work, and that is the soft T wide and the combat application tourniquet. Okay, those are it. I don't. You know, we're not going to get into which tourniquets work and which don't. Okay, that's 9 mil versus 45. My goodness, we'll be here all night. But talking about a quality made tourniquet that actually works. Okay, so we're talking about the soft T wide and the cap. They're designed for one-time use only. They're designed for one patient, one-time use only. They're not something you put on the patient, and the ambulance shows up, and they take yours off and put a different one on. It stays on until the doctor at the ER or the OR, whatever, decides to remove it. Okay, or whatever echelon of care. So it's a one-time use deal. And some people think, oh, okay, at $30 or $45 or whatever, whatever the cost is, they're kind of like, I'd like to have that back. That's an expensive piece of equipment. Yes, we'd all would, but if you've used it, then fine. It was money well spent. You saved a life. But they're designed for one-time use. And in the article, I finally had one. I've had several that have shown a little bit of wear and tear over the years with in a training environment with my students, because our students, they may take one tourniquet, and there's no way for me to keep track of how many times we put one on. But we finally had one kind of fall apart, if you will. And if you read the article, and hopefully the photos showed a little bit better, where part of the soft T wide broke. Now, that's not a hit on the soft T wide or Tactical Medical Solutions, the company that makes them. And I took it straight to the Tac Med Solutions and said, hey guys, this is what happened in class, and it was in training environment, and this is how where the stitching had worn down. And we estimated, looking back at how the tourniquet, the date stamped on it and everything, an estimated, and this is a very conservative estimate here, about 200, 250 applications. And before it finally broke. Now that's a pretty good testament to the quality of the tourniquet. But they are a one-time use. And so, after that article, after I started looking at my other ones that in my class that I use, I'm like, wow, I've got to start replacing some of these. That kind of shed some light on me. It's like, wow, okay, then I don't need to have students using their real world stuff. Obviously, I haven't allowed them to do that anyways. But we for sure haven't had, allow them to bring the class and say, hey, let's just go over them and familiarize yourself, go over the nomenclature and everything. But for training, use our blue trainers, just kind of like a blue gun, okay, or a red gun. It's the same type of deal. Hey, we'll use our blue trainers and use and abuse those. That way they don't, would they last during training? Sure. When you get your tourniquet for real world use and application, sure, take it out of the package, obviously. Prepare it for the worst case scenario of one-handed application, and prepare it. But look at it, make sure everything works on it and everything. Maybe a practice run once or twice with it just to make sure, okay, it does work, and you're familiarized with it. But don't sit there and constantly train with it. And that was kind of the point of the article. My point to everybody was, don't sit there and train with your real world. Go ahead and buy 2 of them and designate it as a training tourniquet only. Just because they are one-time use, and we don't want to, if you keep tearing up your real world stuff and then you put it in your med kit or your EDC kit, and then you go out there in the streets on the side of the freeway, and now you have to use it. It may fail. Okay, and that no fault of the tourniquet, just the fault that you kept abusing it.
Right. In fact, what I want to do here is I want to screen share this the article here so people can see what happened to it. So I'm going to start a screen share here, and people can look at this. Here we are. Here's the. There we go. All right. So here's the article that we have.
That's a good looking article, isn't it?
Gosh, that's a good looking article. Designated training tourniquets. And here I'm going to click on this, and hopefully this picture, there we go. Picture comes up, shows you, you can see where it's, frayed here and failing, right? That's the tourniquet.
Yeah. And that's the knurling on that windlass on that stick there. If you look at the picture just up, next to it, you can see where that stitching just came undone. And from the knurling and from the abrasion of the blue webbing itself, okay, and the knurling on that windlass, just over time finally gave way. Yeah, because the windlass is made on this one is made out of aluminum, and those things they're rough. Yeah, they're bomb proof. You're not going to hurt those bad boys.
Yeah. So anyway, so I want everybody to see that, because that's what happens to these things. So designated training tourniquets on Personal Defense Network. That's the article that you should go and read after the show, of course. So we'll stop that and we'll get back. So anyway, so I'd never really thought about it, and I'd never really thought about the fact that they are essentially single-use devices. I mean, there are very few things in the medical field that are not single use. I mean, everything's designed like that. And I never really thought about that. So the blue ones are available. Are the blue ones intended as trainers, or are they just blue?
They're intended as trainer.
Okay.
Tactical Medical Solutions makes a couple different color variations. They make a black one. They make the trainer blue. They make a orange one that I recommend. It's a bright, why not? It's a bright color so you can see it. Right. No sense of diving down into that go bag of yours or whatever, and everything's multicam and black Velcro, and you can't find it in the middle of the night. And so be able to find it. But they make the orange one, and now this year they've come up with I think tan as well, like a coyote brown as well. So they do make them different colors. The cat from North American Rescue, they make several different colors as well: a black, a blue, orange. I'm not sure if they make any other colors, but that covers your bases,
Okay. So this brings up an interesting question. This is going to sound silly, but do tourniquets have like an expiration date?
I'm not going to say that they don't have an expiration date, but you definitely want to, obviously inspect your equipment. I inspect mine, of course. Just me being me and a little OCD and being the medic. Whenever I get dressed and I one of my everyday carry stuff, I look at it, just get a quick look over, okay, and then put it in my pocket, put it back however I'm carrying it. But I would say probably at the end of every month, I do make it a habit of at the end of the month, take it apart, physically look through it all, make sure I don't have any cuts or abrasions or any of the stitching or any of the, if you're on the cat or any of the Velcro or the hooks or anything, nothing's broken on it. Just give it a good look over. But they are pretty durable. Between the Softy Wide and cat, I will say they are pretty durable. They're designed to be stored and have a good shelf life. The good thing is if you do find, like, hey, I've got a stitching that's coming undone, or I've got a tear in mine, or the Velcro's and it's got too much junk stuck to it, don't throw those away. Those become your training aids now.
Right.
Medical gear is expensive to some degree, so why not? Well, hey, now you've got two training aids. Go out and buy you a new tourniquets. That way you've got a brand new, fresh one. And but the other one just became your training aid.
So since you brought it up, about what you carry, if you would, let's kind of take that and go off of that for just a second, because there's something that I wonder about. What kinds of things do you suggest keeping in a trauma kit? And let's talk about first a trauma kit. What's in the one that you keep on you or that you carry every day? Let's start with that.
It varies. You're going to hate me for this. You're going to hate me for this, but it does vary. It's I'm not going to use the cliche of, hey, they're tools in a toolbox, depending on what the job is. But if I'm wearing, if I've got to put on the coat and tie and the suit, well, then I'm going to wear a different, one type of or method of carry, I should say.
Right.
But there's four things I tell people to look for when they're packing an IFAC or an individual first aid kit or a med kit or their EDC med kit. And that's, and those four, and to ask yourself four questions. One, what is your activity that you're going to be doing? Okay. What is your mission? What is that going to be? Are you kicking in doors of bad guys, or are you taking your family out to dinner? What is you're going to be doing? Or you're going to the office to work. Second is, what type of environment are you going to be conducting that daily that activity in? Are you, in a maritime environment where salt water's destroying everything? Are you at altitude, so ounces equal pain? If you're on a sheep hunt or something, are you, just going to Wally World? Okay, well then in Texas, well, it's been 120 degrees out here. So you don't want things to melt. Okay. So that's one thing you got to worry about. But the third is going to be, what is your level of training? If it's, hey, I'm a cardiac surgeon or a trauma surgeon, then I may carry a little bit different stuff. If I'm John Q. Citizen and the layperson, well, then I'm not going to carry a suture kit. because I don't know, one, how to use it, and two, I'm not qualified for it. Okay. And then four, how many people are you wanting to be immediately responsible for? Now, this is, excuse me, kind of gets into, and that can be subjective or dive off into a, black hole there of, well, I'm going to save the world. Yeah. Okay, great. Sounds good. But are you talking about, I carry the medical equipment I carry on myself is to treat myself.
Okay.
Now, I'm not carrying gear on my body and my EDC to treat someone else or to treat two other people or somebody else in the office. That's there for me if I get hurt. And that's just an old school way of thinking from the military that I was taught as a medic. Like, hey, everybody carries their own IFAC and their own med kit. So when I walk up to them, I can use it on them. So, how many people are you immediately responsible for? If you've got a family of 4 in the vehicle, well, then maybe in your vehicle kit, you carry enough equipment to be able to treat 4 people, not just 4 injuries, but up to 4 people. That's going to be a lot of equipment, believe it or not. But what do I carry? I typically, we look at it as I want people to understand to say, hey, I want you to treat your patient, not your equipment. So we got to look at it as a perspective of meaning, hey, well, that's kind of an old school, EMT and paramedic thought there of, well, if we're in the back of the ambulance and the heart monitor tells us, hey, they've got they have no heart rhythm. Well, then we'll shock them. But you turn around and you shock the patient and they're sitting there talking to you. And you're like, wow, you just shocked them because the heart monitor, your equipment said something, but you didn't look at your patient. So pay attention to what your patient, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So what I mean, and to further kind of explain that, it's think of it like, okay, well, what am I going to be concerned about most of? What's going to kill me the quickest? Well, we know for a fact bleeding out is bad. Okay, so for years, we've all been heard of the ABCs, airway, breathing, circulation. Well, it's kind of been reversed now over the past 12, 15 years. Okay, but it's first thing is circulation. Well, 2 parts. One, am I bleeding anywhere? I've got to control the bleeding first before I worry about airway and breathing. It's just simple, basic anatomy and physiology. Okay, so bleeding. So I've got to control bleeding first. And if we're talking about any self-defense aspect or, or even, hey, car wrecks, or if you go to CDC, look at, hey, what is killing people the most? Well, heart attack, cancer, and car wrecks. Okay. And then from there, man, it just there's a whole lot of stuff. But so when you look at heart attacks, great. Learn CPR, learn how to use an AED. Okay. Then if we're worried about cancer, well, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're giving it a run for its money. We're getting there. But with, car wrecks or anything, blunt trauma and bleeding out, well, then we need to talk about looking at tourniquets. We need to look at hemostatic agents. We need to look at, hemostatic agents. I mean, stuff like quick clot combat gauze, Celox Rapid, stuff like that. Okay. And then maybe pressure dressings. Okay. So once we control the bleeding, then we can worry about the airway. Like, hey, are they, in a self-defense type of aspect or a violent attack, if I've gotten stabbed or shot anywhere in the thoracic region or anywhere there's basically your rib cage. Okay. Then I need to plug those holes. And the best way to do that is with a chest seal. And we've got plenty out there in the market. I just got a couple shipped to me here last week, and they're very cool. I'm very excited about them. I don't know where I put them. I've been trying to find them for the past hour before the show started to show them off. They're very cool. But so chest seals. So stop the bleeding, whatever tool that may be. Tourniquets, they are, contrary to some people, but they actually do work. That is a first line defense against major bleeding out of the arms and legs. Only the arms and legs. Okay. But then hemostatic agents. And those are great because, you're like quick clot combat gauze. That stuff you can use, not anywhere on the body. You do need to know how to actually maximize and use it effectively. But it does take some bit of a training to figure out how to use that stuff. So controlling the bleeding, I'd say, would be the big thing. And then, of course, chest seals. That's what I carry. Some of the stuff, I've got a couple of kits I've been playing with, actually, because everybody wants to know. I've got this kit from ITS. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
From ITS Tactical. It's their EDC kit, and it's got a soft T wide in there. It's got, let's see, what is it? Quick clot combat gauze, a soft T wide tourniquet, and a pair of gloves. So it protects you as well.
Okay.
And it's a small little thing. I mean, you can't tell me you can't put that in the blue jean, your butt pocket there. Chris Fry, another PDN contributor.
Yeah.
I took his idea of his pocket shield, right?
Right.
You guys have seen that
Mm-hmm.
before. Well, I actually turned it around or didn't turn around, but I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
I attached just rubber banded, soft T wide, here, the orange piece here, tourniquet, and then a quick clot combat gauze. And that fits in my pocket. And I've been carrying this now for about 3 months now. And I've actually just started putting a chest seal, that one of the new ones I just got, actually behind the quick clot, wedged up inside there. And that makes, there's limitations to it, of course. But cheers, Chris, if you're watching.
Wow.
That's a good idea there, man.
That's a neat idea.
But there's plenty of options out there. And then carrying it, just to wrap it up real quick, it's a winded question or winded answer. My thing is just make sure, folks, not only that you have the tools, you have the training, but you can access it with either hand. Think of it like your defensive firearm. Where you carry your defensive firearm, can you access it with either hand, one-handed? If that hand gets shot or injured or trapped or whatever, incapacitated, well, then you still need to stay in the fight. Well, you need to stay in the fight and the fight of life. So be sure you can access that stuff one-handed as well.
Wow, that's interesting. I like Chris Fry's idea. That's a great idea. So you brought up two things, and I hope I remember both of these because they were a little separated. But two interesting things that you brought up that I want to kind of touch on. First of all, there's a lot, we tend to think of, because we're in the self-defense world and especially in the firearms training world, we tend to think of trauma as being caused by gunshots, right? But yeah, you were talking about all of the things that can kill us. And by the way, if you really, folks, if you want to sort of get a really good idea of our place in the world, just look at the list of things that can kill us. It just goes on forever. We're not as tough as sometimes we think we are, but all of the things that cause trauma that can kill us, other than gunshots, you mentioned car wrecks and that kind of thing. And because you're out dealing with this all the time as a profession, in your day job, what are some of the things that you see that maybe we don't think about as trauma causing, things that maybe those of us who are gun centric or knife centric really don't think about?
I would say car wrecks.
Okay.
As kind of duh. But just simple car wrecks. And one thing I've noticed with our students, when we give them car wreck scenarios in some of our classes, everybody's really looking forward to gunshot wounds and stab wounds. And, we kind of joked about it back in EMT and paramedic school. Like, some days the scenarios you got from your instructors, you're like, God, I wish they would just give us like gunshot wounds and stab wounds, because they're so much easier to deal with. None of this, the medical calls or the medications or the drug calculations or even car wrecks, because you're looking at multi-system failure or multi-system injuries from a car wreck. You're getting broken bones, broken, organs, and a lot of kinetic energy getting the brain getting smashed around. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong with the body in a car wreck. And just to put it in, I've kind of noticed it with two things with our students. One, just tomorrow morning, after this show, but tomorrow morning when you turn on the news, notice that every local station has a news reporter that's dedicated to doing nothing but giving you the traffic reports.
Right.
And we all just take it like, oh, it's okay. There's a big car wreck. There's a big pile up and all the cars are slowing down. Traffic's going to be hell this morning. Okay, great. Well, think about, are there any injuries? How many car wrecks throughout, here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in a given morning or during rush hour in the morning or in the evening or all day? Just car wrecks, and just to get an ambulance or a fire truck up to that scene, that may take longer because of the traffic of everybody, not getting out of the way. But car wrecks are a big thing. That's number 2 killer in America, literally tied with cancer. Often overlooked, but the problem with car wrecks is that I've noticed with the students, with multiple injuries and multiple people in a car with multiple people with multiple injuries, that starts eating up your medical equipment very, very quickly. And I noticed with our students, they're like, well, I've used up everything in that, that shoe box you gave us of stuff, or that backpack, so I've used up everything on that one patient, or your EDC kit. I'm like, well, great. a tourniquet and quick clot, and I use that up on 2 patients, maybe 1 or 2 patients, maybe. Well, now what? I've got 3 other people. What do I do now? So that's one aspect of folks that, like you said, are guns and knife kind of good guys and girls. We don't think about is, well, no, there's consequence. There are other things besides violent attacks. We have tornadoes here in Texas, so severe weather flooding, you get crush injuries from debris floating and slam it into you, or you're trying to get out of there. We are tough human beings. So our bodies do a really good job of taking care of itself. 9 times out of 10, we get in its own way. But,
you were talking about this, and as I'm thinking about just, in the last year, and I live in a rural area, so maybe things are a little different here than they would be in an urban area, but I'm thinking about in our little paper, all of the sort of stories that have come out of things that have happened, and even something like a compound fracture. And hopefully everybody knows what a compound fracture is. That's where the bone actually breaks through the skin, correct? And I was thinking about that, and depending upon which direction that nice sharp shard of bone goes, it can do serious damage. It could sever an artery, all kinds of things. And compound fractures happen. I mean, people falling off their bicycles, sometimes falling down stairs, all kinds of things, recreational activities where you might end up with a severe break like that. And that's all of a sudden trauma that you have to deal with, right?
Sure,
Wow.
sure. I mean, broken bones. I mean, that's like you said. What caused it? What was the mechanism of injury? What caused that? It could be depending on what bone it is. I mean, if it's something like your wrist or your lower leg, that's one thing. If it's your ribs and broken more than 2 or more places in your rib cage, I mean, that's going to tickle a little bit every breath you take.
Yeah.
And then let alone a femur, your upper leg, your thigh, that bone in the middle of your thigh, that's under a lot of tension. And if that breaks, that's for one, that's a significant amount of energy. And those jagged bones can tear things up too, the more they wiggle.
Wow. So, it's not just, folks, it's not just, shooting and stabbing. That's not, all the things that can happen. I think of kids falling through plate glass windows. It isn't like the movies. When you go through a window, it isn't like the movies. People don't just get up, dust themselves off, and walk away. You go through a plate glass window, you're going to sustain serious cuts, right? And even that. And so as I'm thinking, all these things that can happen that we really don't think about. And I know a lot of people, and this is the second point you mentioned, I wanted to get to it. I know a lot of people are, let's face it, in the training world, trauma kits are kind of, that's the cool thing to have. All the cool kids have trauma kits right now. And so a lot of people are going out getting trauma. Well, hey,
You're right. I agree 110% with you.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the ultimate cool kids. I got all sorts of cool med kits on me.
So everybody's getting a weapon mounted light and an RMR and a trauma kit. That's what all the cool kids are doing. And I know a lot of guys are probably throwing tourniquets and hemostatic agents in their kit and carrying them around, having never before learned how to use them. Do you run into
that? Sometimes. It's a good thing that they're carrying it. And this is going to sound kind of bad. I'm almost afraid to say it. Well, how many of us know that we have friends or family members or colleagues that run up to us and say, "Hey, why don't you check this out? I bought a firearm this weekend."
Right.
And that's good. That's cool. We're always everybody wants to ooh and ah and what'd you get, and okay, well, cool. But then they say, well, yeah, I got it so I can, protect myself and stuff. Okay, cool. What kind of holster you're carrying? Oh, I don't really have one. I just took my coat hanger or something and wired something together, or just put it in my waist sock, or, hey, I don't even keep it. I keep it in the glove compartment of the car. But it's the same thing, right?
Right.
I hear the same thing, and I hear the same thing about med kits. They're like, hey, check out this new med kit. And they hand me this giant, aid bag that weighs 50 pounds. I'm like, hey, that's really cool. What all's in there? And it's like, I have no clue.
But by golly, I got it.
But by God, you got it. Cool. And I'm like, okay, let's see. They get points for carrying the gear, and being a cool kid is, okay, there's the cool guy factor. But you got to know how to use it. And for darn sure, not just saying this as a trainer, as someone that makes a living teaching others, but the the first time you open that kit, I mean, they always show off, yeah, I've got a med kit, and I look, and their tourniquet still has the plastic wrapper around it. And for our audience and some of our audience, not everybody here carries, so it's hopefully tuning in. Some just other folks too. That thank you guys for tuning in. But for some of us, some folks go out and get a defensive firearm and they carry it around in their box with the ammo and the box that the ammo came in, and they don't have the magazines loaded or a cylinder loaded or anything. And that's the same thing with a tourniquet and your med kit. No, open it up, look through it, be familiar, train with parts of it, or at least be familiar with it, and so you can use it, because you don't want to open it up when it's your loved one laying there in the puddle of, at night on the side of the freeway after the car wreck, because you're tired and you swerved, overcompensated, whatever. And now you're laying there with your loved ones bleeding out, and you're opening this cool guy kit for the first time and now have to figure out how to maximize it. That's a bad scenario.
Yeah. And there is technique to using these things. There's technique to using a tourniquet, right? And especially technique for using hemostatic gauze. I certainly learned that. And I think a lot of people don't understand that there's actually technique to doing this, right?
Sure. There's parts in the body you don't want to start, not just packing a wound, but using the hemostatic agents. You don't want to start shoving this stuff into a hole inside the scalp or inside the skull, because then, well, that's your brain. You don't want to use this stuff up either on minor bleeding. The head's very vascular, for example. So if you ever watched a UFC or a professional boxing match, okay, well, they get a cut above their eye and the blood's gushing everywhere and everything's, oh, it's horrible, and it's awesome. The crowd's on their feet, everybody's cheering. And then the bell rings, that's the end of the round. They go to the cut man goes, and plugs the hole and cleans it up, and it's this video cut. And everybody's like, oh man, we were hoping for more gore than that.
Yeah.
But if you burn up your hemostatic agent just on that little cut, but yet down on their leg, they're bleeding out of their lower leg profusely with an arterial bleed, well, then you've already used up. I've only got 2 or 3 items here. I've already used it up on that one little tiny thing. So there is some, the genitalia, you don't want to use that stuff on it. In the lungs, in the ribs, you don't want to start packing and shoving this stuff inside your rib cage. That's not good. That's not where it needs to go.
Wow.
So there is some technique and some, I guess, knowledge on how to maximize that stuff. Not just use it, but how do I maximize it?
Because if you've got a patient with multiple wounds, I mean, evaluating what you need to do first is kind of an important part of this, is what you're saying, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, circulation, airway, breathing,
Right.
Look at those things.
Yeah. Forget the cut on the scalp. Pay attention to the blood that's gushing out of his leg. So interestingly enough, because we've kind of talked here a little bit about training, I'm going to give you a loaded question. What's more important, training in shooting skills or training in medical skills? Loaded question. Go.
It's a loaded question. Sure. And it's again, let's put it in context. If we're looking at pure statistics, then sure, we're more worried about heart-related disease and car wrecks. So I would say, okay, well then let's focus on learning how to do CPR and use an AED. I'm not even going to get into that being healthier individuals. Okay, I'm the last person that needs to talk about that. I've got my vices and bad habits. Okay, but and not all of them are preventable. There's plenty of people that just have heart attacks, genetics and stuff, but we can prevent a lot of it. But and then car wrecks, as far as prevention there, sure, stop texting and driving, people. Okay, seriously, that's just put the phone down. But car wrecks, so we got to look at okay, what are we doing? Anything can happen in a car wreck. External bleeding, internal bleeding, broken bones, internal organs, decapitations. I mean, I've seen a little bit in 15 years, but I haven't seen it all. I still get stories from colleagues, but if we're talking about in a violent encounter or a violent attack, and we're worried about, just like our, majority of our personal defense network, I don't want to say fan base, but of our followers and people that, contribute here. If we're talking about violent altercation, then the first thing I would say is no. The priority is obviously with your your mindset, and then of course your defensive techniques, whether that's firearms, knives, combatives, whatever that may be. But that comes first, because you've got to stop the threat before you can render any medical aid. You can't tell the bad guy, hey, stop stabbing me in the chest. I've got to put this chest seal on.
Right.
That doesn't work that way. That's why talking with Craig Douglas, another PDN contributor, and Claude Warner, talking to them, I asked them a questions. I said, hey, how fast and rapid are these attacks? And they went through some of those with me, and I went, wow, that's okay. So you've got a few options, but they need to be made quickly. So that's where you need a lot, put yourself in those type of training scenarios and put yourself in that training to be ready for those violent encounters. And then you can apply the medical rendering aid and the medical tools and techniques. But if we're talking car wrecks, sure, obviously just by statistics and numbers, the medical. I always ask my students at the beginning of each class, in some of our tactical medical classes, hey, how many of you were involved in a gunfight this last year? And nobody raised their hand. And I said, okay, how many of you saw a car wreck on the way to class this morning? And 3 or 4 hands go up. Okay, how many saw a car wreck here, someone had a heart attack at your office the past 4 months? And every hand shoots up. I said, okay, so what do you think we need to be focused on today? Or where do you think your mindset and your priority should be? Should it be the plate carrier? Well, yeah, if you're a police officer or, somebody in the line of work, I get it. Okay. But if you're some kind of, office dweller, $2,000 on your plate carrier and which plates you got in there, maybe, there's other things we can spend money on that'll go a lot further, but we won't go down that aisle. Go down that
right.
So it is a toss-up. It is a loaded question, a loaded answer. It's a toss-up.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And this is going to sound like I'm asking you a self-serving question, but if somebody says, hey, I want to take a class, a medical trauma care class. I want to learn how to do this. Now, naturally, because I know you and I know what you do, I'm going to suggest, hey, go see Caleb. But the fact is you can't get to everybody in the country, right? You probably like to, but you can't. And so if someone, and there are a lot of people these days out certainly teaching classes, because like I said, it's kind of a cool thing to do. How can someone judge the class before they take it? What should they look for if they're looking to take a class in learning how to do this?
This is technically my second business I've ran, working exclusively by referral. I've used some social media and stuff, but and a little bit of guerrilla marketing in the here and there. And by the grace of God, everybody that's, people like yourself and Rob and other PDN contributors and other folks in the industry that have helped me along the way. But, referral, hey, does anybody else know anything about them? I always ask, just like a firearms instructor, hey, before I go spend my hard-earned money and time and ammo and drive all the way out there or fly, you go into social media, you text and call your buddies, has anybody taken a class with them? So just a referral, see what kind of reputation they have. Now, we all know that there's firearms instructors out there that have phenomenal reputation and they've got a great following, almost cult-like. And you think, wow, that's probably some of the let's just say not the best option for firearms training. Not to name any names, but we know they're out there.
Right.
So, you got to look at it. Like, what are they teaching? And that's kind of cool with some of the, reviews, but take it for their grain of salt. But definitely someone that's had some type of background in a pre-hospital setting. I mean, I hear it all the time. Guys say, oh, we've hired this ER doc to come out and talk to us about this. I'm like, great. Okay, cool. You'll learn some stuff. And I encourage everybody to go take someone else's class, not just Lone Star Medics. You're going to learn something from everybody. Okay. But keep it in context. What is their background? Is it someone that's worked and understands working in the same place? Well, me as a John Q citizen, looking at car wrecks or, stab wounds to myself, I'm not saying you have to have cancer to cure it, but has this instructor worked in that type of environment where, hey, they have limited resources. They have They don't have access to the entire rest of the ER to help them, or X-ray or pharmacy or other nurses and medics and doctors there. So is it a medic or a doctor? And not knocking the docs out there, but I wouldn't go to a pediatrician necessarily who's spent 30 years as a pediatrician. Great. I've got questions, says pediatric medicine. They're your go-to subject matter expert. But when we start talking about, tourniquets and hemostatic agents, how up to speed are they on that stuff?
Right.
So just try to keep it in context with their background. We're seeing a lot more people training out there and opening up their, companies, and that's great. It's always curious to see why they never put either not just a picture of themselves, but their each individual instructor's background up there. It's always, hey, we have a bunch of veterans that run it. Great. Okay. Or we have a bunch of paramedics of 40 and 50 years. Okay, great. Well, who are they? what credentials do they have?
Right.
How many classes have they taught? What kind of teacher are they? What would you look for in any type of teacher?
So, it's just like when we talk about, when that question gets asked about defensive firearms training, and it's kind of the same thing where we talk about, okay, look for context. And that's kind of the same thing that you're talking about. The ER doc probably not, usually not conversant with the context in the kind of use we're going to do. So it's kind of the same thing. Now, you brought up something interesting with the pediatrician comment, and which made me think of this question. I don't know if you've got kids. I don't have kids, but a lot of our viewers certainly do. At what age do you start teaching this stuff to kids? What can they learn to do?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it, actually. The youngest that we've had in a Lone Star Medics class, I don't know, because we taught a group of the Boy Scouts.
Okay.
And I think we actually had some of the Cub Scouts in there. But I think in an official one, like our Medic 1 class, we actually had a father and his 2 daughters come out to the class, and she, I want to say, was either 10 or 11 years old.
Okay.
And he was there with her. It wasn't like he just showed up and kicked her out of the car and said, hey, I'll pick you up in 8 hours. He took the class with her, and they all go hunting together. And their reason for taking it was, he said, if I get hurt, they've got to take care of me.
Right.
And his oldest daughter, I think she was maybe 13, 14 at the time. So, it's, you get too young. Sure. It's difficult to explain it. It makes it fun as an instructor, because now I've got a 85-year-old, grandmother in the class, but then I've got a 12-year-old in the class, and I've got to be able to, balance that act out.
Right.
So it is, makes it fun. But I think it's totally up to the parents when it comes down to it. What does the parents think they can handle? I don't, for sure, I don't pull any punches in our classes. We talk about male and female genitalia and the injuries. We talk about, we use clinical terminology there. So we know, I don't gore them to death with violent pictures of blood and guts. You want to see what a second chest wound looks like? Here's the video, and I prepare the parents for that and tell them, hey, I'm not pulling punches with these kids just because they're in the class. So if they're, want to run with the big dogs, fine. But if they want to turn their head, no problem. I've had plenty of adults that will turn their head on that video.
Wow. Okay. We've covered a lot of stuff. I'm going to take a minute here. We're going to take just a minute break here. So hang on. We'll be right back with you and everybody hanging on, because we're going to finish up with Caleb here in a minute or two. But I wanted to bring up something that a lot of people watching the show are probably PDN premium members. Mm-hmm. And, shoot, Caleb knows all about this, but hey, if you like the Personal Defense Network and you like our public side, and like I said, 551 videos, can you believe that? And you'll be amazed at our premium membership side of Personal Defense Network, because that's where you get the exclusive videos that only premium members get. And there are a lot of full-length videos there. There are a lot of the video playlists, which gather together all of the relevant premium videos on one topic, so that if you want to know about something specific, you can have all the videos related to that at your fingertips. And that's on the premium member side of Personal Defense Network. Now, the premium membership is usually, I think it's $34.95 a year or something like that. But if you're a viewer of Training Talk, you can get your first year of premium membership for only $10. Now, that's not $10 a month. That's $10 for the entire year. And so you can, $10, you can get in, take a look at the premium side of Personal Defense Network, the membership side, look at all the great premium videos that are there, the long format videos that you don't get on the public side of Personal Defense Network. Lots of great exclusive information there, access to new classes, all that kind of thing, all on the premium side of Personal Defense Network. So how do you get your first year for only $10? Well, it's pretty easy, actually. On the Personal Defense Network page, sign up for premium membership. There are links all over to sign up for premium membership. And when you get to checkout, there will be a box for a coupon code or a discount code. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what they call it, but you'll find it very easily at checkout. And just put in the code GRANT10. That's GRANT, the number 1, the number 0, all one word, GRANT10, and you'll get your first year for only $10. And there's a direct link to that here on the show page. You can just click that and go through the checkout process and get your first year for $10. And that'll give you a chance to find out all the wonderful stuff on the premium side. And trust me, you will find plenty of stuff. I haven't even seen everything on the premium side. I've been a member since the very beginning. So I haven't seen everything yet. And in fact, I haven't seen all of our 551 videos either. So there you go. But there's just a lot of stuff, to watch, a lot of exclusive stuff from some of our great contributors there. So check out the premium side of Personal Defense Network for only $10 a year. The code is GRANT10, GRANT, the number 1, the number 0, all one word. So anyway, Caleb, tell us how people can get in touch with you. Where do you find you?
In Texas.
Oh, well, okay. Well, while you talk, you go ahead and talk, because I'm going to bring up your website here while you talk. Okay?
Sure. No, folks can reach us at LoneStarMedics.com, and that's LONE, not LOAN. I don't do mortgage loans, but Lone Star Medics, medics plural.com. Check us out on Facebook. We started Instagram this year, and I'm still trying to figure that out. So I'm asking folks, be patient with the Instagram stuff. I'm trying to figure it out. But the easiest thing is off the Lone Star Medics website, and there's our contacts page. We're going to be updating the website here and kind of upgrading it, really, but hopefully before the end of the year. But we've got our schedule up there. Also, our social media as far as Facebook. That's where we put up a lot of our current events or classes that are coming up. That'd be the best way. There's also, you can even Google it on the PDN website. There's some articles and videos there we've done with the Personal Defense Network.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, I've looked forward to this for a long time because you're just a wealth of information. Like I said, whenever I need anything medical, information, I go to this guy. So thank you for coming on. Very much appreciate. So everybody, be sure and check out his article on training tourniquets on the Personal Defense Network website if you haven't already. And our next show is 2 weeks from tonight. The next show will be September 15th, Thursday night. As usual, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time right here. And we'll have another great show for you. Lots of great information only here on Training Talk. And so with that, Caleb, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, man. This has been very cool.
We'll have you on again soon, okay?
All right, sir.
Great. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And again, please share the show with everybody, with your social media contacts. Tell them about this great show where we deal with personal defense and personal security and family safety and all that kind of thing without silliness. Without the kind of nonsense that you sometimes get on the interwebs. So please share. We would very much appreciate it. And we'll see you again on the 15th, 2 weeks from tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you then. Good night.